Hello and welcome back. My name is Beth Megill, and this is LOD In Touch or In Touch with LOD. I haven't quite, landed on the title yet. I just know that there are amazing, wonderful people in this LOD community whom are doing this amazing work, and I want to take an opportunity to learn more for myself and share it with others who are interested in this work and what it can provide. So today we're going to have a brief conversation with two amazing movers and shakers, dance educators in the Southern California region. We have Kim Hoy and Nicole Robinson, and they have a special project they're working on that integrates dance literacy into high school, what are called CTE programs. We're going to define that a little bit for those who might not be in the high school or K through 12 pathway, but it's a way of preparing students for the workforce and using various disciplines to prepare them to enter career and technical. Right? It stands for us, it stands for career and technical education in higher ed. I think it's the
That's
same
the same. It's the
for
same.
for
Yeah.
high school. But it can look a little bit different. And Kim Hoy teaches at Nordhoff High School and has a background with is trained in movement therapy. And so she brings that to the work and how these tools of dance education and dance literacy can facilitate, again, the social emotional components of our students' development. And then Nicole teaches at A.B. Miller High School, and she is a facilitator of a new project, a national project, which is creating professional development, again, with social emotional learning at the heart and the eye toward diversity and equity and inclusion. So we have these powerhouses here who really care for the whole of dance, of the student, of the individual, which I think is a real gift. So if I could open the floor and maybe each of you just take a moment or two to share a little bit about your introduction to dance notation or language of dance, and maybe something that you find really interesting or fascinating about the work, just to kind of start us off.
So I'll jump in first if that's all right. I first became acquainted with language of dance in 2015. I think in my career trajectory, I was at a point where I was really looking for deeper meaning in the nature of my creative work with students. And I had participated over 2 different summers in the Foundations 1 and 2 courses at Loyola Marymount. I found it to be meaningful, rich, collaborative, and I think helped me really elevate the nature of the choreographic process for my own students. So LOD for me has been very much about helping students to surface critical thinking, as well as a richer understanding of understanding what a particular movement concept might offer to them across all the creative choices that might be available. So that's my background.
Love it, love it. Nicole.
So I have known Susan Gasso for a bit, and she's always said, "Hey, you should do this." And as most like educators, you have like 1,000 things on your plate, and I'm like, I just don't want to do another thing. And then even sometimes like vacillating into, I don't want to learn anything else, which sounds terrible as a dance educator, but I want to say, like, just when I say I don't want to learn anything else, like I have all these things, right? I think we understand that. And it's like, okay. And then I've got to like set up time to like really focus in on this thing, right? Because I want to do it well. And that's what I'm saying. I gotta want to do that right now. So there was that energy. I did have an opportunity to take class with Beth. And at that particular workshop, you were using LOD to kind of outline accenting, which was very fascinating to me because I love music and my students often struggle with musicality. And so I immediately came back and tried out a couple of things. I think I even texted you. I was like, okay, I'm not getting this one part. And we talked about it. And I could see some wheels moving in the heads of my students. Like there was just a little bit deeper understanding. And so that was interesting to me. And so I set that aside. And then I'm always trying to make sure that my dance program is always in the front whenever there are these things going on. So like there need to be certifications. So I'm going to get right in the front, because we know that oftentimes arts are the first on the chopping block, and, oh, you didn't meet the requirements, so we're going to go ahead and cut your program. So I'm always making sure that I'm in the front of that. So they were asking about some certification for our lower level students, not the students that are in our conservatory. And I happened to have a conversation with Susan, and I thought, you know what, I think that would be a great literacy thing for our students that are not maybe moving into the conservatory. And even if they do move into the conservatory, it would be great information for them to have. And so I went to the foundations training this last summer, and it was mind-blowing. And I was excited about coming in to do it at work. And when I got to work and started implementing these things, my beginning dance class has a completely different understanding of movement and how to move. And you could say, well, maybe it was because you had a pandemic and they're dancing at home and they're just glad to be back at school. But I know that that is not what it is either. And so I've been sharing with our teaching artists that are part of our dance collaborative pipeline, and giving them little tidbits, and they've come in to observe me, and then everyone like can see what's happening. I mean, and I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, I was working with my beginning intermediate students on a pirouette. I've taught pirouettes over and over for 26 years. And inevitably, you're going to have that kid that either turns the wrong way or picks up the wrong foot, right? Happens,
Yeah.
right? But this year I said, okay, everybody, we're going to do a clockwise rotation to the right. Kicked, ball, change, clockwise rotation to the right. Everyone turned the same direction. Everyone picked up the same foot. We moved on in life. And it's moments like that where you realize that they have the cognitive information that they need to do the physical thing. And so, that has been my experience. So I have been sharing with others that I arrived to LOD reluctantly, but it has been a fantastic journey.
Well, yeah, and I think you bring up this great point that it's like that the inclusion of motif notation, or the theory that underpins the motif notation, right? It's really, and I love the word that you use, Kim, surface, to bring to the surface, to bring to light what we are already doing, and with clarity access the cognitive skills that our students have in place to facilitate their physical expression and their artistic expression. So yes, I love that. And I find that for me, of course, I naturally had this crazy affinity for like symbols and notation and whatever. Like that's just how I came into the work. But to me, it is no longer separate. There is no separation for me. And so yeah, I'm always encouraged to find like, ooh, it felt like an add-on, but now I see it wasn't an add-on. It was just this like
integrate it.
Meet those. There are kids that are doers, there are kids that are thinkers, and then there are kids that are doers and thinkers. And we find that the kids that are the doers and the thinkers, they're the ones that excel in dance. I would imagine on this call, all three of us would identify ourselves as doers and thinkers, right? But I do have those other subsets of kids that can just do the thing. They naturally can do the thing. They don't really understand up here why they're able to do it. And then I have kids who can think very deeply, but when they approach the physicality of something, it becomes challenging for them. And so I think that LOD brings all of those things together and takes all of those subsets of people and allows them to speak the same language. That was actually my sponge. 2 days ago, I had, what language do you speak? Come over and talk to Mrs. Robinson, tell me what language you speak. And then for that class, they had the duet score. And the conversation was, we all come in with all these different language, but this piece of paper right here, this organizes us so that we can all speak the same language, that we all move in counts of 4, that we all understand that this is a forward motion, that this is stillness. And you could see the kids going, oh my gosh, I do speak dance. I was like, yeah, you do speak dance. It's a language. And that was just an awesome, awesome day, And so, and then just to have them go through the struggle of that score, I think is just fantastic. We don't let kids struggle enough, and the arts are a lot about the struggle to get to the thing. And so I think that that's just great that's embedded in that cognitive part, that we have to really think about something before we do it.
To honor that process of like, let's sort it out, let's take the time. So let's take a step back and just so you had mentioned a couple things like this, they're asking for certificates, or what that means, or like getting ahead. Okay, so let's go back to CTE and just make sure that, I'm speaking the same language, because of course we have our own stuff at the community college.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and then people who might be not in high school programs or not have a CTE program at their high school, I don't know if that is a thing, but what is the aim of the CTE, and or you can kind of finesse that into how you see LOD helping facilitate that aim or that objective.
I can jump in here for just a bit, and Nicole, feel free to jump on in as well. So when we think about career technical education, we're really thinking about what are students going to be doing after high school? And the idea being that within high school programs and settings, they are earning and really learning and developing skills that are ultimately marketable beyond the high school setting. And when we think about what do we want young artists to be able to do, they need to be able to be incredible critical thinkers. They've got to be great problem solvers. They've got to be able to collaborate with others without losing their cool, right? And they've also got to stand in not knowing things and be okay with tolerating some degree of uncertainty as they individually or collaboratively figure things out. So I love what Nicole was mentioning about, like, it's okay to tolerate some degree of discomfort in not necessarily always knowing the answer just yet. Like, the answer sometimes surfaces through our somatic awareness in our bodies by moving and experimenting and trying things. Dancers have aha moments in their own creative processes. So hearkening back to CTE, it's a question of, well, gosh, CTE is looking to create certifications. Essentially, the state Department of Education is encouraging all industry sector based programs, so not just dance education, but across the 15 industry sectors in California, all of those different pathways within high schools are seeking certifications. So one of the things I do also is I'm a teacher on special assignment, and I help other teachers with these kinds of things. And so every pathway is looking to find the certifications that say, this is what our students and they know how to do. What can our students actually create and produce? So when I think about LOD not only allows for that common vocabulary, but that articulateness or articulation from students that they can actually talk about, verbalize, as well as physically express the nature of movement concepts. And ultimately that informs their ability to teach, to create, certainly to facilitate others in their own creative processes. So it's really kind of cool and exciting. And I will say, to a large degree, I think dance has not had enough certifications that are really aligned with what public high schools look like in terms of dance programs. So this is really, I think, on the cutting edge where dance educators need to be. So I'm excited to see what we are going to create with this new pilot program.
And I think
cool. So I just want to clarify, if I can clarify for myself, and then Nicole, I definitely want to hear what you have to say. But I just want to say, it can be, it's not just like how to go out and be a dancer, right? The certificate, it's beyond that. It's like, how do you enter the general workforce using skills acquired through dance? Is that accurate to say?
Absolutely.
Because the majority of our students are not going to necessarily be professional dancers. Maybe they'll enter to teach, maybe they'll dance, maybe they'll do some community function or some work with dance groups and through a city a city organization or something. But often it's just like, how are you going to be a person in this world? And we can help you be a person. That's
going one
function.
inside out. I mean, that's one of the coolest parts about LOD is just not only the physicality and the cognitive experience of engaging with movement concepts, but it's also the somatic and emotional awareness that a person can develop. And I don't know about you, I like working with people who know themselves and who understand how they roll and can manage themselves emotionally. And they make great teammates. They make great leaders. They make the kind of people who can, for example, become not only choreographers, but directors, event planners, all kinds of careers, teachers, elementary school teachers, professors, you name it. Dancers can go into just about any profession and be leaders in that space because of the nature of being dancers and creators.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, because sometimes I feel like it's all about, well, how are they going to be a professional, you know, in the industry? And I'm like, well, the industry is very flexible and fluid, and the industry is constantly shifting. And this is more about their ability to meet the need as it arises, right?
Yeah.
So, Nicole, please, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off
no, no,
earlier.
it's okay. And that's been a challenge with the content areas that are in arts, media, entertainment, is that we don't have a lot of certifications. So it's very difficult for those groups to meet that Perkins criteria. I believe it's Perkins, right, that asks you to have the certification, which is a pool of money that you have access to as a CTE course. And so it becomes difficult to meet that particular criteria. So, you know, what you then have to do is meet all of the other criterias of being a highly, what is the term, Kim? It's a highly
qualified.
Highly qualified.
So there actually are 11 and now 12 criteria for elements of high quality CTE programs.
Yes.
And so this certification is, you know, potentially one of those ways that programs can meet that standard. And it is for Perkins funding. It's also for a career technical education incentive grant funding. And the financial side of CTE at the K-12 level is always evolving. But at least for the moment, those two funding streams are the primary ones.
Yeah, so as Kim was saying, that cutting edge, I'm excited that LOD is offering this opportunity to it's extremely needed within those people that are offering CTE courses in dance. Like, wow, this is incredible. This is the first opportunity that we have to provide some type of certification. And I know, you know, some people might ask, well, what is it going to lead to? Well, it's new, you know, so I think that that's the first thing. It's a new certification, but what it will lead to is artistic literacy in your dancers. And who doesn't want to sign up for that as a high school dance teacher? Who doesn't want more artistically literate dancers? Like, I think the hands would go up, you know, exponentially. Like, we want that. So I think, if anything, let's just say that it leads to you having a group of students who are just extremely literate. And that is something that we want across all content areas, not just in dance. Definitely.
It encourages
Awesome.
maturity. I would just offer that.
Yeah.
Nicole's absolutely right. It encourages maturity of critical thinking. It also encourages maturity of emotional awareness. And ultimately, if it can help us satisfy those CTE standards, I think teachers are hungry for that. Dance educators who have a CTE pathway need opportunities like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So then, so what would this look like inside a CTE, like inside a program that has a CTE pathway? What would this type of a certification? I know it's still like in its super baby stages, but there's this opportunity, right? This pilot project is what I've heard it called, like this pilot project to try something out. And so what might that look like for somebody who is interested in joining the pilot project or seeing how that could fit within
I think at the first level, we're looking for teachers that are interested in beginning to implement LOD components into what they're already teaching. And that's the thing that I didn't quite understand about LOD until I started teaching it. I was thinking that it was this whole separate container that I had to bring into my class, but understanding that you're just infusing, you're already teaching extension and flexion and all of the disciplines that you teach. So you're just now bringing that language and those symbols into that. So first, it's just, are you interested in being a pilot and helping us pilot out the assessment pieces for the certification? Are you interested in learning what LOD is and how you can incorporate it into the content areas that you already teach. And then, sorry, we have a lot of bells at my school. And then secondly, then being a willing participant to begin offering the assessment tools to begin to establish if students can achieve the certifications. It's really a two-part thing.
And then students would complete some sort of a project with evidence of learning that is a common assessment process, right?
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it would be shared across, but the way that teachers facilitate the course content would be unique to them and according to their
Yes.
genre preference and their vision for their
Yes.
program and their thematic content, and all of that is still the same, is their stuff. They just, are you interested in kind of threading through your work, something that can culminate with this evidence of learning?
Yeah, and in its infancy, I know the conversation has been, there will be specific learning outcomes that the assessment needs to meet, and different criteria, but teachers will be able to build their own assessment, and as long as it's meeting and being able to allow students to demonstrate their learning of the specific learning outcomes that LOD has for that certification. So I think that's also really beautiful as well.
I just want to
Yeah,
mention one thing, which is sometimes teachers hear about opportunities like this and they get worried that their district won't support financially these kinds of opportunities, and districts have CTE money. And so I do want to make sure that any teacher listening to this realizes they can ask for funding to help support being part of this project. But not only that, funding that will ultimately pay for the certifications for their students. That's very typical across all CTE spaces.
That's great.
Well, this is awesome, and something, if I would love to delve more, and maybe we'll have another chance to meet together, because I'm curious how what we identify as the literacy processes will also be embedded, which is related for me very close to that, the process of critical thinking, the process of coming to know oneself through experience and experimentation and sensing and awareness and collaboration and translation from movement to words to symbol to movement to words and symbol, and facilitating that fluency. So I'm super excited. So I'll be sure to put your contact information in the show notes, and they can reach out to you directly, or should they go through the LODC? What would you prefer?
Reach out to me directly. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not speaking for Kim, just speaking for myself.
No, that's fine. I'm happy to talk to anyone at any time.
Yeah.
So exciting. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to to see how this pilot project and help support it, of course, in any way that I can help support the pilot project as it comes to fruition, because it's going to start kind of this summer into this year. Is that right?
That's the plan. That's the plan, to get started this summer, possibly. And I do know, I think I heard from little elves that make these types of decisions that there may also be a start of the year opportunity as well. So
okay,
maybe.
Very cool. So lots of opportunities. Thank you so much, Kim Hoy and Nicole Robinson. I'm so grateful. It's so nice to chat with you on our lunch break, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.